Very pleased now to be joined by the one, the only, the dashing, the debonair, the internationally famous. I actually don't know exactly where everybody knows him from, but somebody knows him from somewhere. Everybody knows him from somewhere. Most recently, though, from Sports Illustrated, from SiriusXM, it is the one and only the legendary Michael Fabiano. Fabs, my fantasy league mates hate you because you have helped me destroy them.
Well, appreciate the kind words and glad I've been able to help over the years.
Do you ever I have to imagine you get that a lot. Like a lot of people oh, I won, I'm sure people even tell you I won $500, I won $1,000, I won whatever. Like, you help me do this, you help me do that. Like, I have to imagine that never gets old.
Yeah, no, it's always good to hear because that's what I'm here to do.
Right.
Is help people. So anytime you hear that I've helped someone win a championship or they enjoyed fantasy football a little bit more because of me, I try to be someone who gives you advice, but is also entertaining because numbers can be very boring. So yeah, I do appreciate that.
I think you do a great job of that. I go way back to when it felt like podcasts were first kind of taking off. When you guys would go into the fantasy cantina, those are just the best days. Yeah,
me and
things
Elliot
aren't
and Jason. Yeah,
things
those are
aren't the
good old
same.
days.
That it felt like a secret. You know what I mean? It felt like I had this special information that nobody else did. And so it was very cool. But it is interesting how in your profession you've kind of become sort of a guiding light on a lot of things. And so I like when something terrible happens, like the Damar Hamlin thing last year. I'm sure you got inundated with Fabs, what should we do? What's the best way? You become this voice of reason for everybody, even in situations that you never could have foreseen.
Yeah, that was a rough one. And I gotta be honest with you. I mean, the situation itself was horrible, but
right.
It was a real point of contention in fantasy leagues. People lost friendships over that. I'm serious. The poor guy almost lost his life, and people are concerned about their fantasy championships. And I guess when money's involved, people can get a little bit crazy, as we saw with Tommy Pham last year, separately. But yeah, that was a situation now that you have to make a rule for, not for a guy almost dying on the field, obviously, or whether or not he did. But if a game gets canceled that was scheduled and does not get rescheduled, what do you do? And you need to know what that protocol is going to be now, because the last thing you want to do as a commissioner is have somebody come at you and be like, hey man, this happened and you don't have a rule for it. What are you going to do? Because nobody had a rule for that. Nobody had a rule.
And it was almost like the perfect storm of it was effectively championship week for most people. It was two really fantasy relevant teams. It wasn't this random, everybody goes to the random Thursday night, Titans Jaguars example. It was as complicated as it could have possibly been.
Yeah, exactly. In the leagues that I run a ton of leagues. If the final score was not already set, so for example, if a team had a 50-point lead and the other team had Tyler Boyd, okay, you're done. You're not gonna catch him. But in any reasonable situation where a team may have caught up, I'm of the feeling that fantasy football is supposed to be fun, and the more fantasy we get, the better. And so I told people, let's play another week.
Sure.
And a lot of people were happy with it. Some people didn't like it. There was another option where only the players who you started in that game that did not play, you get their points from week 18. And then there was other leagues where, I mean, I know in high stakes, I was like, well, it sucks, but that's it. I mean, imagine being in a high stakes league, being down, I don't know, 8 points, and you've got Jamar and your opponent has no one, and you win, and it's a lot of money. I mean, sucks. It sucks, but it's bad luck.
There were a million different, I remember that, week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, just combing through Reddit comments and things like that. Like to the general point, there were all sorts of hypotheticals. This person had this lead, was only trailing by this tiny little margin. And you're right. Some people decided to kick it down another week or use a bench player, whatever the case may be. It was a terrible situation, and thank God Damar Hamlin is all right. But I'm sure it's a memorable thing for you in terms of having to serve as this overall fan, a commissioner over the sport of fantasy football was needed at that moment in time. So
yeah, gave my suggestions, and hopefully people were able to find something, whether it was something I suggested or otherwise, that was good and made everyone in the league happy. But unfortunately, not everyone's going to be happy.
So what a lot of people might not know, actually, I think you do a pretty good job of baking this in, is you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Our
You
YouTube
think?
audience, our YouTube audience is seeing the Cowboys hat, but they're also seeing, in terms of the view, only a New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles, and I guess Kansas City
Well,
Chiefs
but
hat
see,
behind.
all right, well, look. So the problem is that I've got everything in alphabetical order because I'm OCD. So if you
Okay.
move this up, there's your Cowboys helmet. And then I got the other one here, and then I got another one in the other room. I got another one that's signed by Emmett, Irv, Micah, and CD in the other room. But I have all the helmets in order of division. So AFC East over here,
Sure.
all the way down to NFC West down there. And so I just happen to be in a position where, like, you see the Giants and the Eagles.
Right.
Those are the best helmets, by the way, from each franchise. I grew up in the 80s, so I love the 80s stuff for the most part.
Yeah, the block Giants is the best when I think you're a fan of, alternate or at least good uniforms.
Yes.
It's great to be kind of back in this era. The Eagles are terrible, like generally and objectively, but the Kelly Greens are awesome to be able to get to see.
Yes. And even the Jaworski era uniforms are really good too. Back when they were in the Super Bowl against the Raiders, Jim Plunkett in 80. I like those, but like the Kelly Greens, like Randall Cunningham era, those are sweet.
You have the Commander's helmet. I was going to ask because I saw it. How did you decide to get the number 10 Chargers helmet? Because you like that makes it difficult. Did you just go that for Herbert?
So the helmet itself actually didn't come with numbers.
Okay.
So you could go like on eBay and stuff and find helmets that have or numbers for helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have got 30 because Austin Eckler's my buddy.
Right.
But I ended up getting a Herbert. I just got the 10 because I couldn't find those numbers in that style with a 3. I could only find the 10. So I just got the 10. And then I have another one. Here, I'll show you. Where is it? So this one here that's old school. Now that's Drew Brees'
gorgeous. Number.
Right. But so this is like old school Chargers helmet. But a lot of these I put together.
Sure.
So like this was a different helmet altogether, and I got the lightning bolts and the numbers and the face mask and put it there. And then actually one of my favorite ones, I put this one together too. And I know whatever, they're not the Redskins anymore, but
that's a great logo.
I love this helmet.
Yeah.
And they only wore this, I think, 2 years. It was like 71 or 72 or something like that. This is, and obviously the Redskins helmet that we all know from back in the day before they went with the football team and the Commanders is classic, and it's a great looking helmet. But I love that yellow helmet. They wore those jerseys once or twice. I remember like when Jason Campbell was the quarterback, they wore them once. But that helmet was actually like an Arizona State Sun Devils helmet that I found the Redskins logo, and I was able to put it together with a gray face mask. So yeah, a lot of the helmets that I have are old school stuff. Like I have, like, look at this thing.
Oh my goodness.
Broncos.
Yeah.
It looks like the Broncos had.
That's better than their white ones that they're whipping out this year. So
yeah, and then I got this is the old.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Oilers one.
Yeah.
You know what? I like the white, honestly, but like I wish they just went back to that. So here, I'll show you. Like that, yeah. I love that. I love that. That's classic. That's like totally now they went to Super Bowls and lost, and then they went to the navy blue, the current helmets, and they won Super Bowls. But I would argue that that's because of Terrell Davis, not because of the jerseys. So yeah, I love those old. I wish they had gone back to those, but is what it is.
It's like I'm a fan of nostalgia. I'm not necessarily a fan of innovation in this sense. Like I don't need this Colts black. I don't need everyone to have a black helmet.
The black one. I don't mind the helmet like so much, but the heathered blue like looks.
You look
crappy.
like Duke. You look like Duke.
I don't like it. There's some of the alternate helmets are kind of crappy, and some of the alternate jerseys are like, dude, just go back to your roots, man. Like that, like the Cardinals, like the helmets and the uniforms they had back, like when Neil Lomax was there and Roy Green and OJ Anderson, like those are sweet. Those are really nice, but and I don't know why the Cowboys won't go back to the Royal Blues from the 70s. I don't get it because I never liked the navy blue. like as much as the royal blue. The royal blue is classic. It's the royal blue with the light blue pants. I mean, it's awesome. They won't go back to him. I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of Jerry Jones, by the way.
I mean,
I'm not a big
there's
fan
a long line, I think, in that sense.
he hasn't won anything without Jimmy Johnson's fingerprints. Nothing.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the Ring of Honor doesn't have Jimmy, so it's really all
I know.
Jerry's, credit. That's the party line.
Same thing. It's the same thing as WWE, where Vince McMahon won't put Randy Savage in the Hall of Fame, and we all know the reason why for that. This is different, but it's a personal thing. So
it's I'm not like I know people believe in karma to different degrees. I think this gets a little bit lost. The funniest thing I think you could have ever scripted, it felt like WWE, was the night that Jerry was celebrated for going into the Hall of Fame himself. The night, they had the halftime festivity. It was during the 2017 season, and it was the night that the Eagles were in town. It's a Sunday night game. It was literally, at the time, the worst loss that the Cowboys had ever had in that building. And that building is like synonymous with Jerry, right? Like the glitz and the glamour of it all, like everybody associated. Like the fact that it was literally the worst loss they had ever had during the first season that the Eagles happened to win the Super Bowl, the night that he was celebrated for going to the Hall of Fame, like you couldn't have scripted that. Like that truly was this, like, I mean, I obviously didn't enjoy it whatsoever, but it really was, I think, objectively funny, especially looking back on it. It'd be less funny if the Eagles had won the Super Bowl a year ago, but thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah. So if he brings back the Royal Blues, though, maybe he buys us both back a little bit. So that's
it would bring me back a little bit, but still not all the way. I mean, honestly, now I don't know how old you are, but I started rooting for the Cowboys in the early 80s, and Tom Landry. I love Tom Landry.
Right.
Danny White and Drew Pearson and Dorsett, like like my favorite players. Randy White, Harvey Martin at Too Tall. That's when I started. And so it was really hard for me when the Cowboys got sold and Tom Landry got fired.
Sure.
But it was especially after the 1-15 season and the 3-13, and we're like, oh, this is awful. And then the dynasty hit, and we could have won 2 or 3 more Super Bowls, maybe 2, if Jimmy and Jerry could have gotten along. And nobody knows exactly, but those 2 guys would happen. But I mean, bottom line is that Barry Switzer's Super Bowl championship was Jimmy's team. And ever since then, the Cowboys haven't won anything. Nothing. There's been bad coaching hires like Dave Campo. Really? Like, you're going to hire Dave Campo? I can get into it. I'll just get mad. So I do think this franchise right now is a little bit jinxed because of Jerry. I'm a little superstitious. I don't know that the Cowboys are going to win another Super Bowl while he's around. He makes bad decisions. And I can't kill him for everything. He's made a lot of good draft picks, or whether it's been him or Steven. And I remember he wanted Manziel, and then we got Zach Martin, thank God, instead. But I mean, there's been some really, like, what are you doing? I don't know about this Luke Schoonmaker or whatever the hell his name is. I don't even want to pronounce his name correctly, just to disrespect the actual selection of a tight end in the second round, which made no sense at all.
Well, that is the correct pronunciation, just so you know. And it is strange. You can't kill them for everything. I agree with you. Will McClay deserves a lot of credit as well in that realm. And I feel like Mike McCarthy is such an easy punching bag. Like, our listeners and viewers know, like, it's become like my corner, like defend McCarthy. There aren't a lot of people here on this hill. And I do feel like he's stabilized at least the football production, sort of made it a real football production, which is good to see, in a breath of fresh air. I mean, look, they were a playoff team 2 years in a row for the first time in 15 years last year. They won double-digit games, back-to-back years for the first time since, the mid-90s. They won a road playoff game for the first time since the 92 NFC title game, right? Like, and like, again, like, that isn't everything. Like, Michael Fabiano isn't buying like memorabilia to celebrate the first road playoff win in 30 years. But it is, it's an improvement. And so I do give those sorts of things to Mike McCarthy. But, we went like way off script in terms of the things I sent you. But my first question really was like, how do you feel about the Cowboys this year? I don't know if it's doom and gloom based on this most recent diatribe, or if you do feel like they are one of the better rosters in the NFL.
No, I think they do have a really good roster, but ultimately, will they win a Super Bowl? No. I'm really pessimistic with the Cowboys. Something's got to turn me around. Something has to happen to turn me around, and I don't know that it's going to happen. I love the addition of Brandon Cooks. Obviously, getting Gilmore helps the defensive backfield. They already have a great player in Micah Parsons. So, like, this defense is going to be tough. Dak's got to turn down the picks, which it seems like every interception that he throws in camp is all over Twitter or X, whatever the hell it is now.
Right.
So they're in the spotlight, but like anything short of like even an NFC championship game berth, like get me there. And then I'll be happy.
Such a low bar, but I agree with you.
Get me there. It's like I'm just like, come on, like something. But at the end of the day, you remember the season, what was it, 2007, when we were the best team in football, 13-3, and then we were at home against the Giants and we have 100 penalties and we get beat. And that was one of the years the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But it's like always something bad is going to happen. Like the game against Green Bay where Rodgers threw that pass to Jared Cook, who that guy
3rd and 30, yeah,
time, and
or 3rd and 20, whatever it was, yeah.
He caught the pass on the sidelines. Mason Crosby hits the field goal, we lose. I mean, it's disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And then the Jason Garrett era was uninspiring, and he was the coach for way too long. But Jerry likes his puppets, man. I mean, that's why Parcells was there for what, 2 or 3 years. Like Parcells ain't going to deal with Jerry Jones's crap. So I wanted Peyton. It didn't happen. And I actually met Mike McCarthy one time, and he was a really nice guy. Talked about fantasy football. This was back when he was coaching the Packers.
Sure.
So like, I don't have any problem, but I don't know if he's going to get us to, to where we want to be. And I mean, people are going to be like, you're spoiled as a Cowboys fan. Well, 30 years ago I was. I mean, like, not now. We haven't won nothing since 95. So it's actually been really hard to be a Cowboys fan the last 2.5 decades.
Well, like half the helmets that you showed were like in operation the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. Like now we're talking like, oh, these are like these nostalgic things. The Broncos should wear the Orange Crush helmet. Like that was literally their uniform at the time. I agree with you. I do I've landed on the opinion that, what we wanted in Sean Payton, I think the Cowboys actually have in Mike McCarthy. I'm not here to discredit Sean Payton, but I am not a fan of like the Nathaniel Hackett stuff was a really bad look. Like Mike McCarthy's never putting his foot in his mouth that way. Like I know, people come at Mike McCarthy in certain ways, like, and maybe like, I think some people would say like, oh yeah, well I want like an asshole to be my head coach. You know what I mean? But I think Mike McCarthy's easier to root for. And like Sean Payton is kind of painting this villain arc for the Broncos this year. And if it doesn't work out, then he's really setting them up to fail. And if he was driving the big mega ship that is the Cowboys, like the crash and burn would be all the more epic. So in a weird way, I'm kind of glad that we're not living in that alternate reality. In a fantasy, like when the Brandon Cooks things happens, do you like, what's your first thought? Like Michael Fabiano, like is your first thought as a Cowboys fan, or is your first thought about the fantasy implications?
No, I've fantasy implications.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Cook's a guy who's had 1,000 yards almost every year of his career.
Right.
Last year, everything went sideways because of the Texans. He's been on 1 million teams, but I think Dak really missed Amari Cooper.
Sure.
And I'm hoping that Brandon Cooks can somewhat fill that role, because last year we didn't have a 2. Gallup didn't work out.
Right.
Washington got hurt. Tolbert didn't really work out. So, I mean, they have the weapons. I mean, Brandon Cooks is a field stretcher, and I could see him having 1,000 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. I love CeeDee Lamb. I think Jake Ferguson's going to be a fantasy sleeper. The Cowboys always use the tight end.
You're on that hill.
We didn't see Dalton Schultz coming, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's a top 10 guy. So I think Ferguson could end up being that guy this year. Obviously, Pollard. I don't know what they're doing in the backfield though. Like, so Zeke is in New England now. Dalvin Cook is the Jets. The only 2 guys that are out there are Kareem Hunt and Fournette. And are we really going into the season with Ronald Jones as our one
Dude's
of our
fun, dude. What are you talking about, Ronald Jones?
No, I get it. But I mean, it's 5'5". Like I
don't believe.
No. Listen, as a vertically challenged individual, I'm not 5'5". I hope he freaking goes off. I hope he's Darren Sproles 2.0. I really do.
Right.
But like, I'm talking about the backup running back. God forbid Pollard goes down. Who's our starter? Like, is it Malik Davis? I think it probably is. And then like, where are you going to go from there? They probably have to go to the street, maybe sign somebody. And Zeke had 250 ballpark touches last year. Where are those going?
I would offer that some are going to Deuce. I spent a week at Cowboys camp. I was more impressed with Ronald Jones than I thought I would be. Which isn't like a huge testament or anything.
He's spending the first 2 games. He's not a good receiver. He's not a good pass protection.
I would say the answer is probably Rico Dowdle. Like it does seem like he's leapfrogged Malik Davis in that sense. He put the ball on the ground last week. Obviously, that's a big no-no. But he does seem like the better runner. He has been before. He's just gotten hurt in the past. But yeah, like I agree with you in that like Deuce Vaughn has a defined role. It isn't the inherited starting running back role if something happens to Tony Pollard. But I think those touches go vertically. You know, they go to Brandon Cooks, they go to Jalen Tolbert, they go to Jake
Right.
Ferguson.
And that's
like
when you look at when McCarthy was calling the plays for the Packers.
right.
I mean, they like to throw the ball. I mean, of course, he had, obviously great quarterbacks, but like he likes to throw the football. So I think Dak, even though everyone's crapping on him right now, the interceptions, and it's just like the easy thing to do to pile on the quarterback of America's team, he could end up being a pretty good bargain in fantasy drafts because I think he's going to have to throw the ball. The Cowboys are going to be in, I think they're going to be, I know the defense is really good, but like you're going to have to keep up with the Eagles. And there's other games on the schedule where you're gonna have to score some points.
Chargers, right? Yeah,
to win games. So, and boy, what is it? Week 4, the Cowboys play the Patriots.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Patriots are wearing the red uniforms that week. I don't know. Anyways, my mind goes into I love it. I would love it. Zeke in the red. Oh, it'd be great. But I do think Dak is going to be fine. Is he going to be an elite quarterback? No. Is he going to be elite fantasy quarterback? No. But Dak's always been, for the most part, a top 10 guy, top 12 guy in fantasy. And I don't think that is necessarily going to change this year. I think people are just looking too much at like, oh, he's threw so many interceptions last year. Well, last year was really the first year that he had that problem. Right. And now he's got Brandon Cooks. You got CD. Maybe Gallup will wake up and
Jalen Tolbert.
Right. I mean, so you've got some guys Ferguson might turn out to be something. So he's got better weapons in the offense by a mile than he did last year.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm sure that you do this a lot, but I often like in a situation like, okay, Mike McCarthy's the play caller. Like, what do we expect? There's not always a huge history of a coach or a play caller like there is with Mike McCarthy. But when he had the comment, and I've lamented about this a lot, but at the combine about we want to run the ball, and everybody ran with that comment and said, a bunch of dumb stuff. My thought was like, name the fantasy running back star from Mike McCarthy's. Like, are we really like, was Ryan Grant like a life changer in fantasy or James Starks? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Eddie Lacy was a thing for, a little moment there, but like, that's not his thing. But everybody acted like, we were going to see the like reincarnation of like Sean Alexander or something with Mike McCarthy. And then they cut Zeke a week after he said that and traded for Brandon Cook. So I agree with you though. Like Dak does have the like stigma of interception. So by all means, you want to pass on Dak in the fantasy draft. I will totally wait forever on.
Yeah, I mean, you get him round 9, round 10, depending on the size of your league. Round 11, I'll take him there.
I had 2 fantasy related questions because I know you're getting asked about like what's your ranking, this and that, but I thought these were interesting. What is the greatest Cowboys season you've ever enjoyed as a Cowboys fan, but also like in parallel, like from a fantasy shares ownership perspective?
Well, the best season I had, I didn't start playing fantasy till 98.
Okay.
So obviously the best seasons I had as a fan were the Super Bowl championships, the 3 that we had, with Jimmy's teams.
Right.
And because before that, like I started rooting for the Cowboys in like 81. And so I watched the catch game and, losing in the NFC championship game. So as a fan, I didn't get to a Super Bowl until the early 90s. And then we had the 3. I remember like one game in particular where I had a Cowboy out of, and I've had Zeke and I've had Dak and I've had, like I remember Terrell Owens, I think it was 2007.
If you're talking that 4 touchdown game
against the Redskins,
against Jason Campbell's Washington team. Yeah, that was.
I had him in that game, so that was good. I mean, that was like a 40-something point game for T.O.
A sidebar, that night, I will never, ever forget this because I was in high school at the time, and you're like so locked in and you think you're like, oh, the world hates the Cowboys, whatever. Later that night, Randy Moss caught 4 touchdowns on Sunday Night Football against the Bills when that was his first season in New England. And I remain convinced that it was like, T.O. caught 4 touchdowns today. I have to catch 4 touchdowns today. Like, I will believe that for all of my life.
It might have been. And then the game that I remember the most where I benefited in fantasy, but the Cowboys lost, and it was like a tough loss. Do you remember the Thanksgiving? It was my first year playing fantasy. It was 98. It was the Thanksgiving Day
Speaking
game
of,
against the Vikings.
yeah.
And Randy Moss had 3 catches and they were all touchdowns. And he averaged like 50 something yards a catch. Like it was insane. It was a really high scoring game. The Cowboys got beat in that game, but I had Randall Cunningham and I didn't have Moss. I had Randall Cunningham. And I think I had Chris Carter on that team too. And so I was pissed that the Cowboys lost, but I was happy because and I ended up winning. It was the first league I ever played in and I won it. And I started with Brad Johnson and then he got hurt and I picked up Randall Cunningham and Cunningham was awesome. And, but the Cowboys got smoked in that game. I remember it was like a real high scoring game. And I remember the Vikings like took early lead and the Cowboys were getting blown out. And then the Cowboys scored, made it a little bit closer in the second half, but like it was, it was definitely a disappointing, game. And, the Cowboys were a good team.
Sure.
But that was the year the Vikings lost only 1 game, and then they got beat in the NFC Championship game by Chris Chandler and the Falcons, which robbed us of a Broncos-Vikings Super Bowl, which would have been awesome.
It's just the way it goes sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you think like the weekend of the title game, you're like, okay, we need this combination and it's going to be amazing. And then, somebody just fails or whatever. Yeah, that was the example I gave you was Calvin Johnson in 2013. Like just going like I didn't have him that day or that season, but I actually never had a share of Calvin Johnson ever, which is a crime, for me. But I mean, having Randall Cunningham had to have softened the blow a little bit. The other prominent example that people give is I'm sure you remember RG3's rookie year, the Thanksgiving Day game. It was both my cousin, and so like you're with your whole family, and he was super into it, and thankfully I won the league that year. But he had RG3 and Alfred Morris, and they were just they were on a tear that year. It was really, really, really annoying.
RG3 had he had one of the great rookie seasons for a quarterback, but. Every great rookie season from a quarterback, the guy's mobile. It's weird. RG3, Cam. I mean, Dak had a good rookie year. Like there's any number of examples that you can make. They're all mobile. Like even Justin Herbert when he was a rookie, I think he rushed for 5 touchdowns. So, but yeah, it's a shame what happened to him in his career.
Even not a rookie, but to your point, like Aaron Rodgers early on was more mobile than people gave him for.
He would give you like 300-400 yards rushing. Yeah,
right. And even
Andrew Luck too, same thing.
Even Tony Romo was again more not mobile, but more mobile than you think, and that was a big reason for like fantasy relevance. To your point, even Joe Burrow to a sneaky degree, like not the same thing, but like that's a really, really great point. It's very difficult to the point to come in and be an elite passer.
Right. Prototypical pocket passers don't come in and light the fantasy world on fire. Like even Peyton Manning was what he had 28 picks in his rookie year or something like that. I mean, you go back a lot of the great quarterbacks who were pocket passers, obviously Dan Marino's maybe the exception to the rule, but a lot of those guys didn't come in and just go nuts. I mean, even Favre, his first year was with Atlanta, of course, not Green Bay. There were a lot of quarterbacks like it took time.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't come in, and it's these mobile guys. That's why everyone is all in love with Anthony Richardson, because he's got minimal starting experience from a collegiate perspective, and he's somewhat raw as a passer. Even though everyone says he's got all this athletic talent, which he does, but he's got a lot to learn. But people love him. Why? Dude can run for 700 yards, and that the greatest example of a running quarterback having more value than he should is Tim Tebow.
Totally.
Tim Tebow threw the ugliest ball that you ever saw in your life, but that guy rushed for 60 yards and a touchdown every week, and he was a good fantasy quarterback. Not great, but he was a startable asset.
I'm sure you get a lot of now like high school and college kids like hit you up for fantasy advice. It's impossible to properly like replicate or describe what that was like, that 2011 run that they had, the Tebow Broncos, because that was when like Twitter was still like evolving, and it was this like very like I actually thought about this with the Johnny doc that came out I guess like 2 weeks ago now. I went to Texas A&M, and that like it was something about that time, like that time, that 2000, like from 2010 to like 2013, the internet was really becoming the internet, you know what I mean? And so that kind of exacerbated the entire issue around Tebow, because I remember that, like, and people like running backs don't matter. Mike Shanahan killed the running back. Like if there's one person who killed the running back position, it's Mike Shanahan.
Yeah, funny. I remember it didn't matter who the Broncos running back was. You knew that player was going to have some value.
Right.
And I mean, obviously Clinton Portis it didn't matter. He was awesome in Washington. He was awesome in Denver, but they had like Tatum Bell and Reuben Drones and Mike Anderson and guys like that. And then I remember it all ended with Monty Ball.
Right.
We all thought Monty Ball was going to be like a thing because he was playing in Denver and he stunk. And then that was kind of the one that was crazy though, is like Reuben Drones was like a fullback in Detroit and that guy rushed for 1,000. Mike Anderson had like 1,500 yards or something, or 1,400 yards as a rookie. It was whoever played in Denver in that backfield was going to have some fantasy value. And then the Monte Ball thing happened. And I think that was close to the end.
Yeah, it was really a weekly game of like, okay, who's the starter in Denver this year? That's the top waiver claim by everybody in the world.
And now his kid's kind of doing it, right? I mean, like he turned Carlos Hyde into an RB8.
I mean,
in 2017, Carlos Hyde was like the 8th best running back in fantasy football. The problem is now, well, obviously they have McCaffrey, so there's not going to be any surprises. But like, if Elijah Mitchell was like durable and they didn't trade for McCaffrey, like that kid could end up being really good in that system. And it's a system thing. What's going to be really interesting to see about that is what the Niners do this year with Purdy, because it seems like they're, as much as they invested in Trey Lance, like he hasn't looked good, and they seem to already be like, we can't play this guy. I would love to see Lance just go someplace else, like trade him someplace else,
Tampa,
give him a fresh start. Yeah. Spread the wealth. I mean, and I love, we're selfish in fantasy, right? We don't want Dalvin Cook going to the Jets. We don't want Zeke going to the Patriots because we want one guy to get all the touches. Like, back in the Sanders and Emmitt Smith days, then, Priest Holmes and LaDainian and Marshall, and a lot of times that doesn't happen anymore. But, we're kind of selfish in that aspect of things. But this is the NFL that we're dealing with right now. That's why so many people are going wide receiver heavy now and waiting on running backs, because there's like so many committees.
Right.
I mean, I talked about it on Sports Illustrated. Was Zeke a death blow to Ramondre? No. But
he inhibits it.
Some really down work and some goal line work. Yeah. Is Zeke really good in pass protection? Yeah. So is he more of a threat to Ramondre than Pierce Strong and Ty Montgomery? Yeah. And then with the Jets, Dalvin, I mean, you can crap on Dalvin all you want. He was the RB11 last year. He wasn't crap. He was really inconsistent. He drove you nuts. But he still averaged 4.4 yards per carry, which is a career low, but he's still over 4 yards a carry. And now you go to the Jets, and I think that isn't a death blow for Breece Hall, but it really hurts.
Man,
like that hurts his ceiling. And that's what we deal with these days. We don't get the Barry Sanders and the Emmitt Smiths and name your 80s, 90s running back who just carried the load. We don't have a lot of Derrick Henrys in the league anymore.
To that point, it was 2 years ago. It was like, oh, Michael Carter, I'm good. Like you were in the Dynasty League, you drafted Michael Carter, the running back, obviously, which made it super confusing. You're like, I'm good. I got Michael Carter. And then here comes Breece Hall. Here comes Dalvin Cook. Like the whole party is ruined. We have gone way long, Fab, so I have two very quick ones for you.
Yeah.
Who was like the one moderate? I know I said Cowboys player when I sent you the rundown, but I'm calling an audible. Who's the one moderately priced player that's like, again, 4th, 5th round, whatever, that it's like, that's the guy, that's the league winner? I know no one's ever asked you this question before, but like there's always like that name. Like you brought up 2017. That year, it was like, hey, pay attention to Kareem Hunt. Pay attention to Kareem Hunt. I remember drafting Kareem Hunt, and that season opener game, he went off, and it was like this incredible justification. So who's that, again, kind of like, you don't have to spend big on him, but you got to be a little early because the name's starting to percolate a little bit.
There's a couple of those guys right now. And you're speaking just running back, or it could be anybody you want. I know a lot of people are high on Calvin Ridley, even though he hadn't played football in a while.
Sure.
He's actually being drafted based on ADP ahead of Christian Kirk, who's coming off a career year. and played a full season with Trevor Lawrence. People are starting to jump on Jahmyr Gibbs also in the high stakes community. He's moving up. And listen, I get it because it's PPR. And I always joke about this, I joke about my superstitions and curses and stuff, but there hadn't been a good running back that's gotten drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds by the Lions and Sanders, and all the guys that they have drafted have either not lived up to expectations or gotten hurt. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Jahmyr Gibbs. But people are really digging on him big time because pass catcher comparisons to Alvin Kamara. The Lions are going to score a lot of points. At least you would think they are. So he's definitely one of those guys that people are starting to talk up. And then there's a few other running backs that have really good opportunities that are probably going to be 5th rounders, 6th rounders. Now they have to take advantage of it. Rachaad White in Tampa, James Cook in Buffalo, Cam Akers in LA for sure, and JK in Baltimore. Now JK came back to the team yesterday.
That's a very interesting situation. Yeah.
What we're looking for with running backs and any player is clear path to targets or touches.
That's
Those
fair.
guys have a clear path. Now they've got to take advantage of it.
The just on the Jahmyr Gibbs point, the best Lions running back I've ever owned or had shares of, which again you pointed me in the direction of at the time, Michael LaShore. You know what I mean? Those are some good times.
Michael, but he also got hurt and his career got cut short.
Right.
Think about it. Since Sanders retired, I'm talking about guys who got drafted in the top 3.
Right.
Kevin Jones, Swift, Kerryon Johnson, Kevin Smith, I think was a 3rd round pick. I want to say 2nd or 3rd round pick. You mentioned Michael LaShore, Amir Abdullah.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Pick. All of them. Not that they didn't have Swift had, a couple of decent seasons.
You had moments or whatever.
Javid Best had
wow.
At the end of the day, everybody either got hurt or was never got into the top 15 at running back in fantasy. They all capped at RB2, mid RB2, and then their careers got cut short either because their numbers went down or they got hurt.
Yeah.
All of them. And Reggie Bush did not get drafted by the Lions, so he doesn't factor into that.
Or Jamal Williams either to that point.
But right. Exactly.
The one season,
right? Drafted by the Lions. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. The Lions need to bring back the black jerseys, by the way, with the blue stripes on the side. I know it's not a helmet, but they got to bring those back.
You know what? I like what they did with the Lion now that it's got a little more description in it, compared to the other one that looked just like a ghost kind of thing. Okay. I didn't really like that one. So I have it. Yeah. So I actually don't mind this with the, because it's got it looks more like a lion. The other one looked like a blob.
I need the black stripe though. If you border the blue stripe on the top of the helmet,
I remember those.
Then I'm fine. I'm fine with the line. I just want the black there.
But the best Lions jerseys are the ones from the Barry Sanders era. You could go back to Eric Kramer was the quarterback. I mean, I like those. The alternates that they did, I like the color of the helmet. I really do in the face mask, but the logo is looks like a 6th grader drew it. And I know it's an old logo from the 60s. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not into it. You put me in charge of these damn uniforms, you'll see this. They'll go selling like crazy off the shelves, man. When I was with the NFL, I was I pitched why doesn't the NFL do a decades week all the time? Every season have 3 or 4 weeks that are just dedicated to the decade of the 70s, the decade of the 80s, decade, whatever it is.
They did the AFL thing in 2009.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But to your point, I think the Eagles were in the Kelly Greens against the Dolphins and somebody else, which is fine. But wear them against the Giants with the blood. You know what I mean? Do the whole game. Don't just. And another thing that bothers me is if you're gonna do it, then I don't want to see the current modern logo anywhere. You got to change 50. You got to change the stadium. You got to take me back.
And the Dolphins too. I mean, I'm not gonna go get over there, but
Dolphins are screwing around.
The 70s. Come on, how do you switch from those? That's so stupid. The Dolphin they have now sucks.
That's a 6th grader's drawing. I agree with you.
Yeah, I just don't like. Whatever. I'm not in charge. But if I was, the logos and the teams would be a hell of a lot better on the on the field. That is what it is. I mean, at least we don't have to deal with the Buccaneers alarm clock uniforms anymore. All
That's
those
true.
awful Bills jerseys that looked almost denim on the top when the Drew Bledsoe era was there.
There were
whatever. It is what it is.
The Bills made it through. My last one, very quick. You mentioned fantasy owners are selfish, so I have to be because I don't get to speak to a Hall of Famer every day. So with regards to my my league of record, 4-time champion, the only 4-time champion.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. Shout out to you. We've done it together, Fabs. It's a keeper league. You get one keeper every year. I'm keeping Travis Kelce. That feels pretty obvious at this point in time. But I have the 10th pick. So overall general strategy to approach right here, starting with Travis Kelce. What should I be looking for? None of my league mates are listening. They've been instructed to turn off the episode by this point in time. So I'm starting with Travis Kelce. What should I build around him?
So it's a 12-team league?
10-team.
10-team, and everybody keeps one player?
Everybody gets one player to keep, yeah. So not totally known right now, but it's the general type of dudes that you can imagine.
Yeah. So, and where's your pick?
I'm 10. So because I won the league.
Because you want 10, you're defending champ. You're defending champ. Okay, so what people are doing, and it's a 10-team league, so it's a little bit easier because you're gonna have more options, than a 12 or 14, obviously. So I'm typically going best player available, but you're probably wanting, depending on who's kept too.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to want to go, wide out.
Okay.
That's probably, is it full point PPR?
No PPR actually.
Oh, it's not PPR. Okay,
No.
So then scratch that. I'd be wanting to get a running back and a wide receiver, and in that case, I wouldn't be adverse to going running back, quarterback. If Jalen Hurts is there, for example, which he probably will be unless somebody keeps him, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd probably, and that's crazy for me to say because I never go quarterback ever that early, ever.
Yeah,
ever.
I know that. That's why I'm kind of.
But I'm talking Jalen Hurts. Like I want, give me a mobile guy who's going to run for touchdowns in addition to what he gives. Like I'm not saying go get, Joe Burrow. Like no, that's way too early. Even though Joe Burrow's great, he's not worth a first round pick even in a keeper league. But I'd probably be going running back, wide receiver, or running back, but I would not go wide receiver because it's not a PPR league. Standard league, you want yards and touchdowns. And so running backs are key. So my guess is that, what were your other options to keep?
I do have, actually, let me see as I pull this up very quickly here. Because if you think that Travis Kelce is not the way to fly, I mean,
it depends on what else you have.
Right. So it was an interesting year, obviously, in a lot of senses. Jared Goff helped me, obviously, but I have Josh Jacobs, so a little bit on the fence there. DJ Moore, Christian Kirk. I do have CeeDee Lamb as an option as well. I kept Cooper Kupp last year, so I can't keep him. I do have Tony Pollard if you're interested in that. And Khalil Herbert.
Are there limitations to how long a player can be kept?
1 year. So that's why I kept Cooper Kupp a year ago. So that's the only rule is all 10 keepers last year ineligible to be kept by anybody this year.
All right. So all those other players are eligible for you to keep.
Right. Jacobs, DJ Moore.
But keeping Kelce, it doesn't matter because there's no age thing there because you can't keep him next year anyway.
Right.
Boy, I'm surprised as a Cowboys fan you didn't say I'm going to keep CeeDee Lamb.
I costed myself a title when I kept Dez over Antonio Brown. It was a tough lesson.
I get the Kelce thing though because you have the best player at a position by a mile.
Right.
And since there's no situation where you have to give him up next year, I can see going with Kelce. I mean, you got some good options. There for sure.
Yeah, it feels like Kelce feels like the highest floor to me.
I don't disagree.
Okay, then I might have again the quarterback that early thing feels sacrilegious to me. But you're the Hall of Famer, not me. So
with the standard scoring, and typically it is with the standard scoring, I'd probably be going running back. But if a good wide receiver is there, I could go running back, wide receiver because you're at the wheel. So you'll go back to back.
Wow.
And I think you probably would be able to get one of each of those positions or two at running back at 10 when everyone's keeping only one player. And I'm guessing, Justin Jefferson will get kept. I'm guessing Jamar Chase will get kept. Tyreek Hill might get kept. Jalen Hurts might get kept. I don't know. Mahomes could get kept. So there could be some pretty good options at running back for you there. So that's probably going to be the avenue that you go down.
Wow. I feel safe in your hands, Fabs, as most people do in the fantasy sense. We went very long, but hopefully the Dallas Cowboys season does as well. Hopefully this is the year they prove you wrong. They say Fabs, jinxes,
I hope
curses,
so.
you
Dude,
know.
trust me. I hope so, but like, I don't know. The Cowboys frustrate the hell out of me, dude. I could go on for hours about, and so could you. So, hey, you know what? Let's cross our fingers that nobody gets hurt. Let's cross our fingers the offensive line stays healthy. Let's cross our fingers that Dak turns back into the Dak that we come to trust. Maybe not in the playoffs, but at least during the regular
Fabs.
season.
No, we're doing so well.
I know.
Okay.
Listen, I know, but I mean, it's like you know the Peanuts character.
Right.
You know, Lucy holds the ball for Charlie Brown. Now Charlie Brown never gets smart because she's going to pull the ball away from him, and that's what the Cowboys do to us. That's what the Cowboys do. There's going to come a time in this season where the Cowboys are playing so well, everyone's going to start picking them as a Super Bowl favorite. Just remember that at the end of the day, Fabs told you so. It's not going to come to fruition. It's just not. If I
had to be negative, I would say like all the weird, memories or whatever we've talked about, like the Aaron Rodgers, Jared Cook thing, like those things don't happen. Like the weird things don't happen for the Cowboys. They're all like again, Zeke's last play was as the center. Yeah.
Romo doesn't lose the ball in Seattle with the Vaseline ball or whatever it is. I mean,
it's
again, we don't lose to the Giants.
They never get the
Cardinals and Jake Plummer, for Christ's sake.
They don't get the Jermaine Kearse bobble catch. You know what I mean? They don't get the Julian Edelman, crazy catch comeback. Like they don't get the cool moment. That is never the Cowboys in that sense.
Yeah.
So good positive note to end on. Michael Fabiano,
beat the hell out of the Vikings last year. That was a fun game, but
it was awesome to relive on quarterback too, like just to see how devastated they were. That was a lot of fun. So, Fabs, you're the best, the gold standard, the Hall of Famer. Best of luck this season. Continue to help millions of people all over the world.